Hey, what's up, fam? This is your host, Ricardo Terrell, coming to you guys from the Fill Your Cup podcast. My mission is to inspire one soul at a time to ultimately inspire the world. And today I plan to do that by diving into the topic of fatherhood. And I want to start off with a quote, and it says, "Helping children define who they are in a positive manner is how we start to shift the world towards being more loving and unified." Ricardo Terrell. Fatherhood is a blessing. Fatherhood is essential to humanity. Fatherhood is manly. Fatherhood is me. I exemplify what being a great father looks like. I love my children. I educate my children. I discipline my children. I protect my children. And more importantly, I lead my children. Kingston, you were the first to make me a father. Meeting you for the first time shifted my perspective on life. You were a born leader. You exemplify love, compassion, meekness, and more. I love the way you study Dad and ask in-depth questions. Your seeking to understand will lead to many blessings. Continue to be the best version of yourself every day, and I pray that the values that I've instilled in you will continue for generations to come. Aaliyah, my mini-me, thank you for loving me the way that you do. Thank you for being the first person in the world to soften my heart. Thank you for the smiles, the looks of admiration, your sweet little kisses, and more importantly, being your authentic self. You're only 23 months young, but very advanced and favored by God. Daddy taught you to pray, and now that's something that you want to do randomly because you're being led by your spirit to do so. You think that you run the house, and sometimes it's true. I love you forever and always. Legacy. Ricardo Jr., my legend. Your smile is priceless. Your laugh is contagious and your spirit is joyful. You're only 7 months old, but so anointed. When you look at Dad in the eyes, I see God, and there was a special moment when I stared into your eyes and said, "God, if you're there, show me." As I finished staring at you, you lifted your head and you kissed me. It was tears of joy sharing that moment with you, and it was a moment that I didn't expect to experience. But in that moment, I knew that the three of us was there. I pray that God continues to encourage you and show you who you were created to be. To all of my children, I want you all to know that I love you forever and always, and I am honored to be your dad. Seeing the three of you grow up and venture off into your different interests inspires me to keep childlike faith, because when there's childlike faith, there are no restrictions put on God. My hope is that everything that you're taught that is in your best interest and is put into practice continuously. And when you all practice these things, wisdom then comes and you will live a blessed life. There will be 3 processes that you will go through, especially when you become a parent. Our children will idolize us, demonize us, and finally humanize us. The idolization will come from the admiration that your children will display for you. The demonization will come because your child is different from you and they think that you're looking to control them, but you're simply doing what's in their best interest, or so you think. The humanization happens when they become of mature age and understanding that we are humans and we're going through similar things that they are going through. And the hope is that the relationship is tighter than ever. You know, as I think about being a father, the challenges that come along with it is continuously leading by example, right? Because it's easy to lead others, but the more challenging aspect of life is leading ourselves. Being a father opens up wounds that I've tried to store away. Being a father constantly reminds me of not having a father and wanting to experience that love and joy myself, but not receiving that here on earth has caused me to yearn for it from our Creator. And I have a deep understanding of what the love of a father is and what it should feel like. I want you all to know that being a father is a blessing. Being a father means dying to yourself daily. Being a father means having the tough conversations and also holding yourself accountable and apologizing. Being a father means being emotional with your children, being vulnerable with your children. Being a father means disciplining your children not because you're angry, but because you legitimately want them to learn from their mistakes. Being a father is joyful. Being a father is memorable. Being a father is God's grace. If there's anyone out there that's considering becoming a father, imagine yourself being in that position already, and even being on your deathbed and you're looking at your child or your children in the face. What do you want those last moments to be like? Do you want them to be filled with joyful memories, laughter, or do you want it to be filled with regret? I made a decision, a conscious decision, before I ever had children, that they will experience an abundance of love, an abundance of joy. And I soon realized that I would only be able to provide that if I loved myself, if I forgave my father who was absent. And not everyone grew up in a absent father home. You know, even some people who had their dad at home didn't have a present father. So there's different stages of fatherhood. And at this point, my oldest child is 7, my youngest is 7 months, right? So how I parent a newborn will be different than a 7-year-old. And the father that I'll need to be when my children are 12 and 15 and 20 will be a lot different than when they were in that toddler stage. So fatherhood is a blessing. Fatherhood is a journey. Fatherhood never ends, because your children are an extension of you, and they're always watching. I've observed that my children look at me and they're seeking my approval, or they want me to be proud of them. And that's how the relationship should be, right? It should be like that. It should be a vulnerable and open relationship. I want my children to be able to come to me and speak to me about anything, any challenges that they're having. And if they can't come to me, that's my opportunity to self-assess and ask myself, why do they not feel comfortable? But if your children do feel comfortable coming to you, take that in, because not everyone gets to experience that. And if there's anyone out there that has challenges with their dad currently, if you're open to it, if you're open to healing, I recommend counseling, right? And then I also recommend potentially going to counseling with your father if he's open to it. And then I also hope that you and your father can have a conversation so that you can seek to understand why certain situations happen or why he wasn't there. Fatherhood means being emotionally available, even when you're tired. It means listening to understand versus listening to respond. It means being the superhero to your child. One of the greatest things that I've heard my children say, specifically Kingston, is, Dad, I want to be just like you when I get older. I want to help friends. I want to serve God. And I want to love my wife and my kids. He's 7, and he's been talking like this for a couple of years now. But it's because he's seen an example of a father and what it looks like to be a man. And I'm also transparent in my faults as well. I express to my children, more so Kingston, due to his understanding that Dad's not perfect. Dad's going to make mistakes. Dad is continuously learning every day. And that's why I emphasize the daily importance of growing, listening to podcasts, reading books, worshiping, praying, meditating, whatever terminology you all would like to use. Do whatever is going to elevate you. Do whatever is going to put you in a position to win. Because there's people counting on you. I made a conscious decision at the age of 19 when I became a father that my life would no longer be about Ricardo. I made a decision to shift the entire trajectory of my family tree at the age of 19. Now, it took me a couple of years to disassociate with a certain crowd, but that all came with God's guidance, maturity, and wisdom. And now, being 26, being married with 3 children, my life is already a successful life. And I pray that everything that I've done for my children and that I've instilled into them will live on forever. And the peace that I have with everything that I've instilled in them is that God has been there every single step of the way. And the Holy Spirit is going to remind them in due time of the lessons that were instilled. So I know this episode was a little bit shorter than the first few. Hopefully it was impactful. Hopefully it gave you some insight into what fatherhood looks like, and hopefully more than anything, it gave you a feeling. Maybe there's an unction that you have to go and speak to your father, to rekindle the relationship, to apologize. And sometimes apologizing, even when you're not wrong, is the best thing you can do. Pastor Mike Todd always says, this will be your best year if it is your best year spiritually. Get all the heavy weight off your spirit. And you only do that by acting upon the things that you're afraid of. Because the best version of yourself is on the other side of that fear that you currently have, no matter how big or how small it is. So my hope is that you guys go out and fill your cup this week. Share this message with someone that needs it. Because in this moment, if I ask you the question aloud, who do you know in your life that has challenges with their father, that needs some insight, that needs some perspective? And I guarantee a name will come about. It may be multiple. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's not you. But pass the message along. Be a blessing to someone this week. And go out and fill your cup.